Well, firstly, can I thank Diane for that kind introduction and welcome you all. Thank you for giving up your afternoon. What a lovely venue this is. It's the first time I've been here, but it's certainly not going to be the last. Two questions I'm regularly asked about why I wrote this piece, and they are, firstly, why Nelson and why in verse? Well, I think the first is fairly easy to answer. I think everyone needs heroes. They inspire us, they show us a path, and I think they guide us to greater things. And we all have our own heroes. And I think our heroes actually tend to say something about ourselves as individuals. So why me and Nelson? Well, in Nelson, we have a man who epitomised his age. He was born on a small island, Britain, yet it was an island that was confident and outward-looking. I too was born on a small island, this island, Britain. But the Britain that I inhabit, unlike in Nelson's time, is fraught with division, self-doubt, and, as we know at the moment, really not sure of its place in the world. And I think we can see that no better than the reaction we had to that recent piece in the Daily Telegraph written by the Foreign Secretary, which was met by fury, ridicule, and cynicism in equal measure. It's an article which I think, at least in tone, if not in substance, Nelson would have surely approved of. Perhaps I'm not alone in wishing to see a Britain more confident and outward-looking. And what this piece is intended to do is to remind us what we've lost, and with a little positive thought, what we might regain. And why verse? Well, we have a real rich heritage in storytelling in rhyme. Right. Most of you here will know Chaucer's prologue to the Canterbury Tales, perhaps one of our most famous pieces of English literature, written just before 1400, written in rhyme. However, in recent times, we actually have very few exponents of that art form. Perhaps Kipling and, to a lesser extent, Betjeman are the most recent. Now, here's where I actually get on my little soapbox, but I'll only be on it for 30 seconds and I'll get back off. Like other art forms over the last few decades, draftsmanship has been sacrificed at the high altar of conceptualism. Looking in another field, right, we get shown unmade beds with soiled sheets. Animals in formaldehyde are just notable instances. But likewise today, we're offered a diet of prose, often lacking draftsmanship, seemingly, in my own personal view, little more than a disorganized stream of consciousness. Now I'm going to get off my box. The piece that I've written is intended in a small way to keep our great tradition of telling stories in rhyme alive. Now, by today's standards, Nelson's life was short. He died when he was 47. So this piece covers the first half of his life, and I'm aiming to carry on and to complete his life by the end of next year. Now, I've had huge enjoyment, fun, writing this piece. If you enjoyed the piece half as much as I've had writing it, then you will really make my afternoon. Thank you.
Market day. Nelson, as a young boy, strolls through his Norfolk village, Burnham over Staithe, 1770. Is this our hero? An inquisitive boy taking a stroll through Burnham Thorpe? It is market day, the liveliest of affairs, with local craftsmen peddling their wares. Bow and bells skip round maypoles as older folk stop to cheer. Travelling acrobats display their fitness. 'Tis a joyous scene for the village to witness. Is that our hero? Heading for the quay to spy on a lugger returned to port. Crates are hoisted. Heave is the cry. Sweat is dripping and mouths are dry. You may now go ashore, the chief mate barks. Here's your pay, 20 shillings each. Wear proper clothing. Take your fleece. Riotous lot won't keep the peace. Is that our hero? Shadowing the crew to satisfy his curiosity. He's being led to rougher parts where the streets are too narrow for horse-drawn carts. Fancy ladies appear at first-floor windows as the crew passes by below. Beware, Horatio, be astute. Eschew girls of ill repute. Is that our hero? Entering a tavern to share a pint with sailors downing 8, to feast on their stories of far-off lands and ships that floundered on the sands. Observe Horatio. His eyes tell it all. Spellbound, captivated, enthralled, a fuse has been lit. To a life at sea he'll now commit. Au revoir. Nelson quits home to join the Navy, 1770. Dearest Papa, I shan't be following you into the church, as I'll never possess the gifts for your vocation. If in your eyes I have fallen off my perch, understand that I must find my own salvation. My heart lies with the sea. I want its rising and falling waves to decide my fate. I go to enlist in the Royal Navy. Please don't be too irate. Before I sleep at night, I shall look skywards towards the North Star, knowing, however perilous my plight, this is not goodbye, but au revoir. Your devoted son, Horatio. Join Reasonable. Nelson joins HMS Reasonable, captained by his uncle, Maurice Suckling. A ship's officer seeks to recruit ratings, 1770. If you are brave and fearless, come here and listen. Not you, sir, old and wizen, nor you, newly freed from prison. I address men strong in mind and body, who crave adventure and Spaniards to disembody. Come join Captain Suckling on board the good ship Reasonable, and serve as a landsman, as best as you're able. A sailor's life is not for the faint-hearted. We sail to distant waters never before charted, and consign Frenchies to the dearly departed. Take a break from ploughing cornfields and the Sunday pew. Enjoy the camaraderie of our merry crew. Come join Captain Suckling on board the good ship Reasonable, and serve as a landsman as best as you're able. A sailor courageously goes where angels fear to tread. Oi! Keep a civil tongue in your head. Our country's fortunes hang by a thread. If you want rum on tap, a weekly quart, and a willing lover in every port, Come join Captain Suckling on board the good ship Reasonable, and serve as a landsman as best as you're able. On board Reasonable. The treatment of press-ganged ratings, 1770. Being a rating means tolerating cramped dorms and hurricane storms, and enemy mortars fired from close quarters. Being a rating means tolerating worm-ridden grub and no bathtub, and blisters from a whip swung from the hip. Being a rating means tolerating sleepless nights and climbing masts to dangerous heights, and disease that makes the blood freeze. Reasonable is paid off. HMS Reasonable, Nelson's first ship, is paid off. Captain Suckling addresses the ship's company, 1773. Attention! I have received a signal from the Admiralty which I must mention. After 5 months patrolling these waters, Reasonable is to be paid off. No more standoff. The risk of war with Spain is over. We're heading back to Dover. You've served faithfully, and I dare say a few will be missed. Extra rum today, but don't get pissed. Dismissed. Suckling's advice. Nelson is offered advice by his uncle, Maurice Suckling, on how to become an officer, 1773. Nephew, a word of advice, if I may. To make officer grade, you could try the triangular trade, but trafficking in slaves is demeaning and vile, conducted by merchants who say with guile it's a necessary evil, thinking that's truly primeval. So you could cast around for a ship Africa bound? Rumors abound of an Arctic expedition, a scientific mission led by Constance Phipps of the vessel Racehorse, to discover a long-sought-for northeast passage and chart a course to India and the Pacific. Joining such a voyage would be terrific. Think of the knowledge you would gain, even as a lowly coxswain. Uncle Maurice knows best. Heed my advice to attain your quest. Arctic expedition. Nelson joins the Carcass on a scientific expedition to the North Pole, 1773. 2 bomb ships, veterans of hostility, under the patronage of nobility, strengthened and refitted and with scientific equipment kitted, raise anchor at Little Nore, tasked to discover a northeast corridor. Foregoing the protection of the Thames estuary, Carcass and Racehorse head for open sea, bidding farewell to England's summer weather of brittle bracken and scorched heather into the Atlantic Ocean. They set forth, setting a course for magnetic north. The Arctic Circle sneers at summertime, and Carcass's captain misjudges the climb. When nearing Svalbard's western coast, Captain Lutwidge is not at his post. Unaware of approaching ice, the ship is imprisoned in a glacial vice. There is nothing that the crew can do but sit and wait and ponder their fate. Under their breath, they curse Lutwidge for his crime and play Moor and piquet to pass the time. To relieve his boredom, our hero volunteers for patrol. Musket in hand, he's eager to stroll. Spotting a polar bear, Horatio declares, "What a beauty! Its skin will make handsome booty." Striding forwards, our hero stumbles. His musket misfires, and the beast rumbles. A volley of shots from on board makes the bear draw back. Horatio is thus saved from fatal attack. With wounded pride, Horatio returns to Carcass, expecting to be rebuked for being an ass. But Lutwidge's bark is worse than his bite. He shows leniency to the contrite. Our hero apologizes and is dismissed with no more than a slap on the wrist. Showing pity, the Arctic relents. Welcome relief for Carcass's malcontents. As the glacial vice eases its grip, thoughts dissolve of abandoning ship. Elusive is the Holy Grail. In discovering a northeast corridor, the ships fail. Why does this voyage excite the imagination? Is it illustrative of the spirit of a nation? Or is it the escapade of a lowly coxswain who through foolhardiness was almost slain? Whatever the reason, to John Landseer we must say thank you for immortalizing pictorially our hero's daring do. Promotion. Nelson takes the Admiralty's examination to become an officer, 1777. Leading by example means being willing to put oneself in harm's way. A further question to Midshipman Nelson, if I may. I have read the reports in this dossier. Your courageous deeds seemingly never failed to impress. Of course, one man's courage is another's foolhardiness. On this question, what do you say? The difference between the two, sir, is one of success or failure, no more, no less. If there are no further questions, you may retire whilst we deliberate. Well, sirs, let's settle this man's fate. I have an evening engagement and it's getting late. Without doubt, this midshipman displays leadership potential. Amongst his peers, he is, I believe, quite influential. To his superiors, he could be more deferential. There is no enemy of the king he would shun. I have a confession to make about Midshipman Nelson. He's my nephew, my sister's son. Pray tell, why have you hitherto concealed this fact? Were you troubled about how we might react? I had no desire to influence your decision. I was confident he'd pass the examination with distinction. Admittedly, he's my kinsman, but in Nelson I sense a man with vision. Well, the boy has my support. If I'd been captain of Carcass, I would have hauled him before a disciplinary court. Taking on a polar bear is hardly innocent sport. It's adolescence, and barely a capital offence. Where is his maturity and common sense? Privateers imperil our Atlantic trade routes. Who do you propose we dispatch to defeat these lawless brutes? Young, fearless recruits. Indeed. Are we now agreed? If this is going to be his first campaign, we had better wish Lieutenant Nelson God's speed. Letter home. Nelson writes to his father on passing the Admiralty's examination to become an officer, 1777. Dearest Papa, far from going astray, your boy made lieutenant today. I'm not expecting you to raise a cheer, knowing your disapproval of my chosen career. I shall have my new uniform tailor-made, following the fashion of velvet and gold braid. Looking the part in my case is vital, our family possessing no hereditary title. I sail for the West Indies before the month's end on board Lowestoft, which has orders to defend British cargo from pirates so brazen-faced they kill, plunder, and lay waste. I cannot, in all honesty, disguise my excitement of sharing a vast prize. This incentive can only heighten the rapture of engaging pirate ships and securing their capture. Before I depart, may we draw a line and make a new start? I long to be received in Kent. Do I have your consent? Your devoted son, Horatio. Raiding party. A raiding party which includes Nelson along the infested San Juan River, Nicaragua, 1779. Such an insidious sound rising from the mire. It's the sound of vibrating wings drawn to a raiding party's campfire. Such an insidious sound readying to feed. It is the sound of parasitic insects piercing the skin, sucking the bleed. Such an insidious sound heard in the morn. It's the sound of brothers in arms waking feverish and forlorn. Such an insidious sound in the heat of the day. It's the sound of burying comrades before their bodies decay. Such an insidious sound retreating back to ship. It's the sound of dragging boots, of territorial gains allowed to slip. Yellow Jack fever. Nelson returns home to England after contracting yellow jack fever, 1779. Is that you, Cornwallis, my faithful friend? A radiant orb is beckoning. I'm earnest, Billy. Please, no derision. Am I blessed or cursed by this brilliant vision? What does it portend? Come, take my hand, warm my hand, ease my shallow breathing. I'm frightened, Billy. I'm stony cold. I fear Yellow Jack has taken hold. Will I survive to see dry land? The radiant orb beckons you home to your beloved Burnham Thorpe. Your faithful friend will care for you, and with God's grace, you will pull through. I'm here, Horatio. You're not alone. First love. Nelson meets his first love in Quebec, 1781. If my heart and head spoke with one voice, harmony, not discord, would reign, and I'd be spared a torment which I'm struggling to contain. The cause of this torment is a girl, so charming, so full of grace. To prove my worth, there's no challenge I wouldn't face. Yet if I offer marriage to a girl with no dowry, my fellow officers will surely mock my choice of bride-to-be. Yet I could act chivalrously, treating the mockers with disdain, and like knights of old, play the ardent swain. Yet by proposing to this girl, I risk my parents' scorn. With little schooling in the arts, they'll assuredly view her low-born. Yet I arrived in Quebec feeling subdued symptoms of a tropical infection, and her gentle smile and amorous gaze have cured my introspection. Yet if I marry in haste, I could repent at leisure and hazard this awakening first love descending to displeasure. With a promising naval career, why should I rush to wed? I must accept the counsel of caution and subordinate heart to head. Role play. At a dinner party in the West Indies on board HMS Boreas, which Nelson commands, the guests ruminate on the roles played by the diplomat, the warrior, and clergyman in times of crisis, 1784. Who would be disarming in the face of provocation? who is effective in diffusing escalation. No amount of abuse would cause him to let loose the lightning bolts of Zeus. He is a diplomat. Who will be opposing in the face of onslaught? One who risks ultimate sacrifice without a passing thought. His kinsman will he shield, never to quit the field, whatever the weapon wield. He is a warrior. Who will be uplifting in the face of hostility? One who can reassure that war has utility. The enemy he will impeach, the justice of the cause will he preach. To God, victory he will beseech. He is a chaplain. Proposal. Nelson proposes marriage to the widow Fanny Nisbet in Nevis, 1786. Throw off your widow's weeds. Put them on this well-lit fire. Marry me, dearest Fanny, surrender to your heart's desire. There is no virtue being alone. Abandon respectful piety. Marry me, dearest vanity. Re-engage in good society. Give Josiah an honest father before he's fully grown. Marry me, dearest Fanny. I'll treat him as my own. Quit this house of sad remembrance. Settle in Norfolk, God's own land. Marry me, dearest Fanny. Witness my beloved sea strand. Prince William will be best man if the ceremony is next spring. Marry me, dearest Fanny. Accept this engagement ring. Life should be an epic adventure. Embrace this man of deeds. Marry me, dearest Fanny. Come burn your widow's weeds. What about your family? My family will adore you. Wealthy father on the bench? Marry me, dearest Fanny. Be my beautiful, intelligent wench. Wedding vow. Fanny's wedding vow to Nelson, 1787. Blessed, blessed vow to be the perfect sailor's wife, to be the anchor in his life when he's restless on dry land and yearning for new command. Blessed, blessed vow to be the perfect sailor's wife, to be the compass in his life when vanity threatens his life story in reckless pursuit of naval glory. Blessed, blessed vow to be the perfect sailor's wife, to be the rudder in his life when the allure of capturing a valuable prize makes the brutality of war harder to despise. Blessed, blessed vow to be the perfect sailor's wife, to be the mast in his life when he's tossed about by life's travails and self-doubt draws the wind from his sails. Blessed, blessed vow to be the perfect sailor's wife, to be the figurehead in his life when the cannons fall silent after a battle hard fought, leading him safely home to port. Emma's ballroom entrance. Nelson meets Emma, Lady Hamilton, on a diplomatic mission to Naples, 1792. Aren't I the beauty, the belle of the ball? My admirers are many as I enter the hall. As they plead for my dance card, I fear a brawl. How I love the attention I aim to enthrall. Aren't I the lucky girl? I bagged a baronet. Not bad for a blacksmith's daughter born to no debt. As consort to Sir William, I exude poise and etiquette. How I delight in befriending the premier set. Aren't I the fancy lady my rivals muse? To get ahead, there's no man she'd refuse. I'm not proud of my past, but I must disabuse the men that I bed, I carefully choose. Aren't I the dancer? A true pearl, I glide effortlessly as I pivot and twirl, giddily falling into the arms of an earl. How, I wonder, will this evening unfurl? I got a little hurt this morning. Nelson writes to Fanny after being injured defending Corsica from the French in December 1793. My dearest Fanny, I got a little hurt this morning, as you may judge from this epistle. While inspecting batteries at Calvi, my right eye was wounded by an exploding missile. I can see very well with the left, so there's no fear of honourable dismissal. Yet I'm confined to sick bay until I heal. Perhaps I'll practice a tune on the boatswain's whistle. The war goes badly in the Mediterranean. How maddening it is to be on the run. Should Corsica succumb, our blockade by sea will be undone. And without a blockade, I venture to ask, how's this wretched war to be won? We're keeping faith in Hood to reverse our fortunes. He's not a man easily outdone. I witnessed horror at Toulon, hard to describe. Axes in hand, a mob rose, cutting down innocents in their hundreds. What motivates the Gallic race? Satan knows! How different are the English. Through our veins mercy flows. We do not kill for killing's sake. Only in the face of evil do we oppose. You'll be anxious for word of Josiah. Well, I'm glad to be his mentor. As midshipman of the Agamemnon, your son, the boy, is no more. He's diligent, dependable, and gamely steps to the fore. Proudly, I introduce him as my own. Be assured, Josiah is having an excellent war. Yours ever, Horatio. First prize. Nelson, as captain of HMS Agamemnon, speaks to one of his lieutenants after capturing his first prize in the Battle of Genoa, fought between the British and French in March 1795. 400 casualties, you say, and half of them dead. Good heavens, her deck must be stained blood red. Why didn't she strike her colours? She'd no place to hide. She was well beaten by Albemarle's rapid broadside. I pity Sir Iraz, captain. He's a big disgrace, saving lives, vainly trying to save face. She's a perfect wreck, you say. Masks and rigging down. How dispiriting. The prize will be £5,000. More Frenchmen were for the taking. Why call off the pursuit? No vision. Lord Hothen deserves the boot. If I'd been the admiral, the fleet I'd have loosed and had such a day as England ever produced. Toast to the Royal Navy. To His Britannic Majesty's Navy, pride and joy of our nation, by this oath I swear eternal allegiance to thee, who since the glorious days of Effingham and our beloved Drake have never faltered in the wake of foreign powers with covetous eyes, plotting and intriguing our demise. To His Britannic Majesty's Navy, whose strength comes from England's noble oak, by this pledge with courage will I serve thee, who since the glorious days of Vanguard and our beloved Ark Royal has never failed to foil threats to our Channel coast Our liberty and freedom is the toast. Si vis pacem, pare bellum. If you wish for peace, prepare for war. Come on. Wonderful.